Good evening, folks. We went out on to an area known as Dry Creek Basin. There is a small village out there, if you will. It was a small townlet at one time where there was an area that was leased out as a resort, cabin type situation. And then there was a general store kind of thing out that way. Dry or Sand Creek or Dry Creek Basin, one of the two. Uh, this is right in the middle of an area also known as Disappointment Valley. And you can tell this area is quite desolate, quite extreme, and very much a danger. Um, on to the story. We have about 12 minutes to cover, and I'm doing a voiceover recording here in the studio in the house because the aspects of what happened it was very windy out there, and I just wanted to make sure that the details got covered. So at approximately, I guess around noon on the 17th, yesterday, a group came through Naturita. I remember hearing the noise because I was working in the garden yesterday, and there was a lot of rolling cars going through. And I thought to myself, I wonder if that's the Corvette group that comes through, or there's another group that comes through this rally. They tend to come through every year or two. I'm not sure. Never known the name of it. A lot of Porsches, a lot of high-end, high-speed cars. So what they do apparently is follow the 141 in rally fashion, heading down from Grand Junction apparently, coming to this area because our canyons are famous for the driving. And I imagine a high-end sports car riding the 141 would be a trip. There is an area on the 141 just past Naturita as you head westward, actually, toward Dove Creek. Now, the story on the news keeps saying this is 15 miles west of Norwood. That is a cautionary tale because Norwood is not located on 141. Norwood is located on Colorado Highway 145. It is nowhere near mile marker 41. Now, this accident scene, on to what happened. The Crown Rally came through yesterday about noonish, came through at a high rate of speed after they left Naturita, Naturita Canyon, and entered Dry Creek Basin and Dry Creek Canyon. And as you exit this area, this road opens wide up. You'll see that on our entry video that I created earlier. Now, as you can tell from various views from my camera, you are 8 miles to the nearest ridge that way, and where this black mark happens is you are also about 8 miles from the straightaway again. So I'm tracing where a few seconds ago I walked past a hump in the road, and now I'm trying to see where this vehicle landed, see its tracks, and you can tell where the vehicle started to make contact with the road after it came down from, I'm tracing these skid marks along the white line, and next to it, parallel, and then you can tell that right as my hand indicates, that car is traveling at an angle. You have four track patterns not in coming into each other at all. And they're only becoming sharper and sharper as that car enters an area, and there goes my trike, and ultimately began to move toward the left. What happened was back where I started to head back toward the trike, there is a hump in the road. This was a Porsche 911 Turbo S, new model, coming through this road. He's traveling at or exceeding 140 miles an hour when he hit the bump in the road. Now, you got to look at these roads as I walk along and pan across them. And I may even look back yet because I wanted to get that emphasis on it. Here I'm looking back. Look at the warbliness. You can see the bump about, 100 yards in front of my bike where he hit and then landed and then skidded. And at 140 miles an hour, I've been walking now for about 3.5 minutes. I'm about almost a quarter mile down the road. He's still made contact with the road, and you can tell he's trying to lock those brakes up to save his ass. But honestly, you go sideways at that speed, and it's easy to do out here. Um, you're in trouble. Now, I'm going to give you a side story where in this very same area, I once had a motorcycle had a speed in that speed range. I'm not going to mention when or why. Dumbest thing I ever did. I lifted the wheel in sixth gear. And immediately as I did so, another thing that comes into play is look at the wind. We even hit a gust on the way out here that literally almost blew my Can Am off the road. The winds will come off these mountains and off Lone Cone Mountain and off the lakes and the highlands near Indian Springs and Lake Miramount, in that area. And that cold air will drop down onto the valley and just hit your vehicle. Here you can see where he hits the marker indicator or the snow marker for the road, and he's still sort of in contact, but within a few feet here, you can tell that the tires begin to lose contact with the ditch and traveling in the hundreds of miles an hour. This was absolutely fatal. Looking back at the accident scene, you can barely see my trike now from the ditch, but I'm looking at where it is likely the car began to roll at this point, and then you can actually see the sage mysteriously becomes undisturbed. The car is airborne. He's in the air tumbling. And as I approach further, and you can see the fence line coming closer as I keep walking along the ditch line, the line of travel, you can tell that the vehicle did start to roll. I start to pick up debris in the video set. And as you can see here, we're getting scraps of plastic. We're getting scraps of ABS, getting scraps of window tinting. This car began to disintegrate as it rolled along here. And it continued to roll as it went up the bank. I know from going through barbed wire fence and my own accident of stupidity in my youth and being able to keep my head, crossing those lines of fence were likely fatal. The wire will go through a vehicle top, especially a sport vehicle, and it could have decapitated the people. I chose not to climb up out of the ditch and go further on. My wife has the understanding that the vehicle came to a rest there. It did not. Every mid support structure of that fence is broken, and those are brand new poles. So he did some damage going through it, and as I climb the ditch here in a second, you'll notice that there are orange marks painted on the desert out there and indications that that vehicle traveled probably at least another 150 feet. Here I start to climb this bank right now, I believe. Yep. And I'm trying to find an easy way up because I got gimpy legs today. But here the fence is coming back into shape. So I climbed here. This is where I think that the vehicle went through the fencing. There's nothing here. All the support fencing is down and it's wide open. A car could go through that quite easily, but because of the tension, likely became decapitated. And then there is where the vehicle continued to roll and land. And those two white spots farther up in the distance, I feel is where the vehicle came to rest. It is reported that the vehicle did exit the roadway, pass through a fence, and was uh, found in a field off the roadway on the path side of the fence. They reported it as being on the right side of the road on a line of travel heading west. It was on the left. And he went across the lane of traffic. Could have very likely hurt somebody. But because 141 is so desolate out here, we're fortunate to know that nobody was hurt by this guy. But I'm going to speak on this a little bit because I have a firm belief in raised some kids, been through this heroin kind of stuff, had to rescue children from country cruises. I've raised children on motorcycles. I'm a sports enthusiast myself when it comes to motorsports. I've ridden and built well over 200 machines in the last 20 years of my life. I owned an eBay shop. I did teardowns, customs, and boy, if I could make it fast, I would make it fast. It's not worth it, people. This individual pursuing a speed of 140 miles an hour on this straightaway, it is a unique place in the state of Colorado and the United States as far as I'm concerned, because this straight stretch is almost 20 miles long and it only has one slight curve in it by one X village, and nobody cares if you speed out there. I can tell you that in 8 years of living in this area, I have never seen a sheriff on this stretch of road. I have traveled at 100 miles an hour several times on this stretch of road on my cycles and trike, And when I tell you that my trike is capable of doing a certain speed, this is likely where I proved it. Now, the danger of this road is in our area, we are funded poorly. We are a poor county. And then, secondly, we are the second half of a poor county that's on the other side of a mountain system where we literally have to drive 106 miles to our county seat. We get no representation. We get no funding. We just barely get school funding in this area. And the people that do that are breaking rules all over the place. And I have a whole other website dedicated to that. My point is these roads are only recapped. And as I come out of the ditch, even and approach the rear end of my trike, you can see the wavy and humpy nature of these roads. This individual had obviously never been through here because some of these bumps will drop as low as 2 feet where a culvert collapses and they merely smoothed it over. So as I explored that initial area where he lost control, you can clearly see that his 911 bottomed out, likely took flight for a good 50 to 60 yards. And when he landed on the roadway again, he was askew and went into a fatal slide and could not escape, not at 140 miles an hour. Point is, ride and drive safe out here, folks. And here's the main reason why. There is nobody here to rescue here. The medical expertise level is nurse level and nurse practitioner. And your EMTs are going to take 45 minutes to 2 hours to arrive. You will bleed to death in that desert before you receive a rescue. So slow your ass down, respect that you're in the middle of nowhere, and stop killing yourself on our roadway. Thank you and have a nice night.